Hi, my name is Linda Larson Schlitz, and I'm with the Faucet of Hope. I have nailed down what my mission is going to be here and my passion and how I'm going to help people for hopefully the rest of my life. That is to help people leave their legacy. That's going to be my legacy, is helping people leave their legacy. Why? Because I believe we are all created for a purpose, and that purpose cannot be fulfilled by anybody else who has ever come before us or anyone who will ever come after us. If we don't do what we were created by God to do, people all over the world for all eternity are going to be missing out on what God planned for us. So it's imperative that we consider that. Consider what it is that we're on this earth for, and how we can transition, if we're not doing it, to that place where we can be working full-time. You may consider it volunteer. Maybe some of you want to do it that way, but you don't need to volunteer to do what God's called you to do. He intended for us to be able to live happily ever after, to some extent, not always, but to be self-sustaining. That's why he said a workman is worthy of his hire. So if you look at the gifts that God has given you, okay, I'm talking to you, and I'm talking particularly to you Christians that are out there, because that is my specific calling. That is my foundation. That is why I exist on this earth. In 1976, when I was going to end my life because I didn't feel I had a purpose, I was introduced to the Son of God, who saved me and gave his life for me, and I have chosen to give my life back to help others to find their purpose in what he is offering them. So that's in a nutshell what I am, who I am. If that's not what you want, then this may not be for you. But I wish you'd listen to it till I get to the end, because my life is an example of how things could change from bad to where I'm at today. From being a drug addict, alcoholic, going through a divorce, having had abortions, just being a mess and not knowing what to do with my life by the time I was 21 years old. Had been through lots of other stuff that led me to do some of those other behaviors. And as a result, I just didn't feel that purpose. But a 16-year-old girl told me that, hey, God did create you for a plan and a purpose. You just need to ask him, what do you want me to do, God? So one of the first things that I memorized when I started searching for, God, what do you want me to do, was in the first chapter of James. It says, if you want to know what God wants you to do, ask him. He'll tell you. But you better ask with faith and no doubting, because the man who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. And don't think you're going to get anything if you don't ask with faith. Well, where do you get the faith? Well, the Bible says that God gives you the faith. He gives us everything that we need to do everything that he wants us to do. So we really don't have any excuses. Oh God, I don't know what to do, because he's promised to tell you. So first you've got to ask. You've got to be willing. You've got to be open. You've got to say, yes, I want to do it. I want to do what you want me to do. And then you've got to let him speak to you. Now, God speaks in a lot of different ways. He speaks through his word. He speaks through the people who are teaching it. He speaks to us in that still small voice that we ignore a lot, especially when we're tempted to do something we shouldn't be doing. We know because Hebrews said, I don't know if you've heard of Amy Grant. I'm sure almost everybody's heard of Amy Grant. She was like 16 when she did her first album, and my friend Linda and I we just loved Amy Grant, and we sang her songs. And I'd written, we had a CD out. So we went to the Christian bookstore in Phoenix where Amy Grant was speaking, or meeting people, the meet and greet thing. And we gave her one of our CDs, and she gave me back a bookmarker that was her favorite verse. And it was from Hebrews, and Hebrews, I think 13:10 or 10:13, I forget. But it was No temptation has ever overtaken us, but such is common to all men. But with that temptation, God gives us a way of escape. That way of escape is that still small voice that he tells us, don't do it, don't go there, don't pick it up, don't go someplace where you know you're going to be tempted to eat chocolate or drink or go on a porn site, whatever it is that we may have that weakness to, he lets us know. He will also let you know when you should be doing something other than what you're doing career-wise. Now, another good indication that you're not on the right track is if you hate getting up to go to work, if you get sick, if you get nauseous, because here's what happens. If you're not doing what you're called to do, you either get sick, you get sick, migraines, a stomach ache, all kinds of physical things, tension, and you quit or you get fired. Those are kind of the three things: sick, quit, get fired. Those are it. And some people get so depressed that they do even worse things. The rate of suicide went up tremendously when the stock market crashed and jobs were a lot harder to come by. It's important for us to feel good, and for most of us, our careers are what help us to feel good. So what happens when you retire? What happens when you get disabled and can't do your job anymore? What happens when you get laid off? Where is your sense of purpose and meaning? If you don't have that outside of a career, outside of a punch-a-clock job, it's not good. Why? Because there is nothing secure in the work world out there. I've been a job counselor for the last 15 years, and there is no security in a job. There's no security in the worldly stuff. The only security there really is doing what God's promised us to do. And that's to take care of us if we're doing as well. That's why it says things like, fear not, because I'm with you. Don't be afraid. I'm your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you, and I will uphold you with my victorious right hand. It says not to worry about what you're going to eat or what you're going to wear or where you're going to live, because the birds of the field, the lilies of the lilies of the field and the birds of the air, they don't sow and neither do they reap. But even Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed as one of these. Just look around you. Did you do any of this? No, it goes on by itself. The trees, the grass, the world, everything kind of just goes around. And that's because God is in charge. He's way bigger than we are. So when we are in that fearful, oh my God, and when we call it, oh my God, OMG, what am I going to do about this, about that? Well, it's simple. Here I am. Surrender. Why is it so easy to surrender to other stuff? Get up and get crazy and, Packer games, and I'm from Wisconsin. Please come. Yes, sir. But it's so hard to just say, yes, Lord, I'm willing to do whatever. And might there be really big sacrifices? Yes, there might be, especially if we're stubborn. The Israelites, when they were called to cross the Red Sea, now they had this big miracle. They had all those miracles in Egypt, and then they crossed the Red Sea and the sea parted and all that miracle. And then they got into the desert and then God provided food. He put manna down from heaven, and then they complained because they didn't have meat, so then he put quails down there. And you'd think that they would have realized that, hey, we had a pretty good God here. He can do some pretty cool things. But what did they do? They wandered around in the desert for 40 years. It would have taken them like 3 months to cross the desert to get to where they were going. But God was teaching them a lesson. Hey folks, listen to me. Follow me, because if you weren't going to follow me, I can't take you to the promised land, because the promised land is it's filled with milk and honey. It's got great stuff over there. You're not ready for that. You're not ready for the good stuff if you can't figure out the basic stuff. It's like an employee or like a kid or like a player on a team. You don't get to play with the big leagues till you get the little stuff done. You got to practice. You've got to be obedient if you're at a job. You've got to, or coaching, anything in life. You've got to do what we are expected to do and told to do by the authorities that God has put in place. Now, I'm really stuck at this, I'll be honest. I don't listen to authority very well, to employers or the government. You know, I don't necessarily agree on things, so I kind of ruffle feathers. It's not that I am belligerently non-compliant, but when I see injustices happening, and they're happening because somebody made a stupid rule once upon a time, you need to change it. That's me hearing God telling me somebody needs to change it. Somebody needs to advocate. Somebody needs to challenge. Today, it is the, I'm trying to think, is it FEMA? It's the federal government anyway, who has made a rule that if you're donating plasma, you can't have a address that is a homeless shelter or a hotel or some unstable living situation that somebody determined to be an unstable living situation. They don't take individual situations into play or how they came to be in that situation. They just generally blanket came up with this rule. So I just think it's wrong, so I need to contact my senator and say, hey, we gotta have them look at this. Is it right? People need plasma of odd, blood types, and people can't give it because, they're living in a transitional place because they lost their job and whatever. Okay, that's a long story, maybe a little sidetrack, but my point is that that's the kind of stuff God calls us to do. He sees that still wobbling. If somebody called me and said, hey, Linda, I tried to give plasma, and because I'm living in this, this veterans home that is a transitional, they won't let me give plasma. That's not right. So it came into me. I had the opportunity. Now I have an opportunity to make a difference in the world forever. Because the day may come when somebody doesn't have plasma of that blood type that my veteran could have given, and now he may be able to give it because I'm taking that opportunity. That's what it's about. That's what following God is about. I'm writing a book, and part of what I do with the classes that I teach and the coaching that I do is on figuring out your purpose in life, figuring out your passion, figuring out your gifts, the spiritual gifts that God has given you, and then how do you transfer that knowledge to actually getting paid to do it. Now, there's a lot of you that are listening. Some of you I am targeting this video to because you've impacted my life in a major way, and you're not done, but you're getting older and you should be retired by now. At least you shouldn't have to be driving a long ways to punch a clock. You should be able to be enjoying what you're doing. We all should be able. We all should get up every day and love what we do. And it doesn't feel like a job. And we don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, is it, am I going to get paid? Or because if we're doing what we're called to do, there will be those people that are our ideal customers, they call it in the marketing industry, people who want and need what we have. Why? Because guess what? God created us to work with them. He created you to be involved with me so that I can help you to be involved with others. See how this goes? That's life. That's how it goes. That's how God works. If people weren't doing what Jesus taught them to do, go into all nations and teach the gospel, well, none of us would be here. None of us would be Christians. None of us would have come to the knowledge that we have to share with others, that there is a living water that can flow through us, and the Holy Spirit, Jesus embodied in that. God gave us this privilege to be vessels, to be faucets of the living water, so that people who need that, which everybody does, we are the ones that are going to reach them. We've been called to reach specific people, not just general people. This is my belief, that God has chosen us to do very specific things. And if we're doing it, we probably won't even know that we're doing it. Like Jill Johnston, that was her previous name. She had no idea that she impacted my life in the way she did, or that I talk about her every time I talk about how my life has changed. And that's how it's supposed to go. If we're doing God's will, it's not effort. It's not something that we are, having to brag about. It is just what we do. It is just who we are. And I have fought that for the last year, since I started trying to do my online business. I have fought that notion of just being me, because I had this idea that being me wasn't good enough, and that I had to, kind of meet the needs of people out there that might not think that all this religious stuff. I didn't want to scare anybody away. I didn't want to miss opportunities to talk to people that, might need a positive influence. But what I found was that a lot of the things that I was doing didn't give me much of any opportunity to really share what I'm on this earth for, is to be a faucet of the living water, to be the Christian witness that God created me to be. Not everybody's been called to be an evangelist, but I am, and I've kind of been fighting that. So I'm here talking to you now, whoever's listening, because I don't want anybody else to fiddle around for years. I've been a Christian almost 39 years this year, and I have tried to be a witness through most of those years. Another influence, Paul Streifer, was a counselor that I went to when I was struggling with trying to figure out my career path. I was going to school to be a public school teacher. He was like, Linda, I think you're going to have a really hard time, because you're very vocal about your faith, and I don't think it's going to be a good fit working in a public situation. Well, I lasted, 5 years, but then it wasn't a good fit. And he was right. Then I got another job working for the state, and I was able to work around a lot of things, and I think have a really positive impact for a lot of people. Must have, because I have this wonderful plaque and letter from the governor and from Reggie Newsom, head of Secretary of the Department of Workforce Development, saying I'm, a shining example of what people should be like in Wisconsin, and I've impacted, the citizens of Wisconsin in a positive way. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. My husband and I were nominated and got the Athena Award for the Hometown Heroes. Another wow, how does this happen? And just a couple months after that, I was nominated for the Athena Award, and I had to write this little thing about what I'd done to impact people, and I ended up receiving the Athena Award. And I'm like, I just, with other nominees, I just couldn't believe it. So I went up there, and all I could say was, this is really cool, but I'm just a faucet. This isn't about me. This is about being open to what God has created me to be and to do. That's it. That's, in a nutshell, that's it. If all we do is be open to letting God do his work through us, we're literally going to change the world, because you impact one person whose life changes for the good, and they get that spiritual connection. They finally figure it out and go, oh, that's what it's all about. And they start living it. than all the people in their life. And those people, and I mean, really, you've heard the thing about 1 penny, and if you double it every day, think about that. It's the same thing. Because now, and this is what I want you to understand, now we have an opportunity to reach the world. When it says go into all nations, you used to have to raise a bunch of money and go be a missionary. You don't have to do that anymore. I mean, I'm working with people from Pakistan and all places all over the world. I've got people that I've hooked up with on the internet. People in the poorest countries, in the poorest places, have internet. Seriously. So there isn't any place that you can't go into the mission field for free without raising any money. And there isn't anything that you have done or that you can learn to do. There isn't anything that is going to prevent you from making a living, making money, at least generating enough to leave a legacy for your children or your grandchildren or your favorite charity by doing what you're created to do. And here's how you do it. If you don't want to do this internet stuff, well, that's okay. That's what I'm doing. And if you jump on to take a look at what's happening with my members that are joining my membership group, it just blows me away. Let me give you an example of Jason Breitenfeld. Jason was one of my interns when I worked at the job center, and very wonderful guy. Been through a lot of struggles. He was a veteran, got out of the military, went to school into the police, criminal justice. Yeah, got to his last semester, wasn't a good fit. Went back, got an associate degree in human services. That's where he interned with me at the job center, but couldn't get a job in that field. And then he realized that he really liked mechanics, so he went back to school again to become a mechanic. And in the process of that was helping people drive, working for a company that gave safe rides to drunk people. So he would go out and pick up people in the bars and take them home to make sure there was no drunk driving people out there. Unfortunately, one of those snowy nights in Wisconsin 2 years ago, one of those people who chose not to use that service got into his vehicle and hit Jason just a mile from where he had dropped off some people that he'd picked up at the bar. This guy was going about 70 miles an hour. Fourth time drunk driver, hit Jason head on. I mean, his whole, the gas pedal was on the seat. So you can imagine what his legs ended up looking like. Just a mess. A whole month in the intensive care, had to fly him down to Marshfield. It was just a really bad situation. And it's been 2 years, and he obviously ended up, completely disabled at that point. Didn't think he'd ever walk again, came out in a wheelchair. And I've been following him on Facebook because, ever since he was my intern, I just loved watching him. He did so many cool things, and he was such a help to me. He learned how to use this program called WisCareers, which helps people do their resumes. And he did such a great job that actually he got a job working for WisCareers. So I knew he had the computer skills, but he was so frustrated and felt so down about not feeling valuable anymore, and knowing there was more and wanting to get out and share his story, but had no clue how. Jason joined me in June, joined my team, my membership team. He, this week, is doing the contract with the publisher that is going to be publishing his book, The Dangers of Drunk Driving, the Jason Breitenfeld story. He has done his own website. He has his own blog. He has got all the social media. He's got like 500 people following him already, and since the beginning of June. Now, this is crazy, but not, because Jason knew in his heart what he was supposed to be doing. He was supposed to be impacting people who were drunk drivers, who were still doing this kind of thing to impact the families that have suffered. His wife speaks with him too sometimes, and the people that can make the difference in changing the system. So that's what Jason and I are doing next week. We're actually doing a video, doing a seminar, and then that will be recorded. And Jason's blogs are turning into his book. Our videos are turning into a saleable product that people are going to want to buy. His book is going to turn into audio books as well. So now, and Jason's also referring people to my program because I've helped him so much. So he's going to get paid from me because I'm going to pay a percentage to anybody who will refer. At least 25% of anything that I make is going to go to the people that referred. So that's an income source. And then Jason's gotten so good at doing this marketing stuff that now I can put my newcomers over to Jason and to Angie, who's another gal that joined my membership, and she's redone my whole website. You like my website? She's the woman to get. She's amazing, and she's a programmer. I mean, that's what she does, or she's a web designer. Jason, he didn't have a clue until a month ago. So what Jason's done is a very simple WordPress, gets him through. Someday he'll work with Angie and have a fancier deal than what he's got now with all kinds of things. But right now he doesn't need it because he's working with me and he's going to be on my website. That's what I do. That's what God has called me to do. And I really want you to be a part of this because you've got a legacy that needs to be left. And I'm guessing that there's a lot of you that have all your life wanted to write that book. All your life you wanted to share this, that, or the other thing because you know that you've got more and you're not done yet. The people who are walking the walk and have a relationship with God, you're never done until you're gone, until he takes you home, because people always need us. So you can't ever quit. You can't ever retire from doing God's will. That doesn't make sense. He put us here for his purpose. So there is no retirement to doing God's will, but it can change in how that looks when you're able to generate enough income to not have to spend your whole life worrying about how to get money, because doing his will is going to generate income for you. Writing the books that are in your heart and in your head, or maybe aren't yet, but will be once you meet with me and I tell you what it is you should be writing a book about. It may be writing a book about this process, and that's one book that'll come out that everybody will get to be a part of, is writing a book on collaboration and how doing this together works. It's imperative. I can't stress it enough that if you're listening to this, you are supposed to be getting involved in doing this, because that's how God works. People don't come into my life unless they were led there for some reason. So sorry, if this is stepping on toes, whatever. I've been placed here by God for a purpose. You turned the channel, you flipped on this, you got an email, for however you came across this video, it was not by accident. I'm telling you. Because I am not sitting here doing this for no reason. God's got a plan, and he's out there picking people. He picked them a long time. He picked you before you were born. But he knows you need to be doing that because there's somebody going to come into your life that needs to hear what you have to share. There's people out there that need to read what is in your book. I had somebody, and this turn came about for me in a real powerful way just a couple weeks ago when I got a call from a friend that I used to work with, who we're kind of in the same boat, kind of at that transitional midlife. Well, we're older than midlife, but I'm 60 and he's close to that. But kind of transitioning out of what we've been doing into something, but not knowing what. And, financially, how do we do this? Just quitting your job or losing your job and not punching a clock somewhere else doesn't make sense. But when you know that there's something else, I wrote my book in 10 days. My book that I have out there, the Ditzy Blonde Faucet. Anybody who knows me and has worked with me, spent time with me, knows I'm a ditzy blonde. And I'm not offended by that. Some people are offended that I use that term to describe myself, but to me, it is what it is. You know, you have to accept the things you can't change the things you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I know that I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder for a reason, because there's a lot of you out there that have it. There's a lot of you who also have bipolar, which I also have. There's a lot of you out there who have migraines and who have been through a lot of the things I've been through. I've been allowed, privileged, blessed to have all this so that I can help you. Now, that's the way you got to look at it. That's the way you've got to look at when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. When you lose your job, great, you've got another opportunity to do what you love. So paint. I just got sold a saw this week. I'm so excited. In my relaxation time, I love to paint on old saws and different things. And I sold one this week, and it's pretty exciting. That's the other thing. I've got a store that is going to be on my website for, let's say, starving artists, people who have a gift, something they love to do, whether it's making jewelry, painting, writing, speaking, singing, doing crafts. It doesn't matter. You can be on my store, and I will do my very best to market everything you have to give you some income while you're at home doing what you want to do. If it's just a little extra money you want to make, cool. I don't want to ship it. I don't want to handle that. So you get to ship it yourself, that kind of thing. And that may change when I get a lot of people and they can do that. But my point is, and my computer's going to die here in a minute, so that's my sign. It's time to close. You have a purpose. You need to be doing it. You can't wait another day, because there's people now, probably has been people waiting for you for a long time, that need to hear what you have to offer. And you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You can do it I wrote one of my books from the middle of the sea. I don't know what, it was bad in geometry. It was not geometry. Was it geometry? Geography. I was terrible in school. Okay, I didn't do well in school. But I was in the middle of the ocean on the ship doing my book. So you can be anywhere and do what I'm doing. I'm on my porch and the colors keep changing because it's cloudy. You can be anywhere and do what I'm doing. All you need is a microphone or your cell phone, and you can talk into it and leave, and there you go. Now you've got an audio that could be turned into a video, that could be turned into a book. You just really got to see how easy this can be. Please let me help you. Let me help you leave your legacy, because time is too short. Life is too short. It could be over tomorrow. You never know. So do it today. Get hooked up. I've got a membership that is affordable. If it's not affordable, talk to me. We'll make it work. Thanks for watching. I'm Linda Larson Schwartz with the